Thank you for joining me for this session. In this particular session, we're going to be focusing on how we can help students better apply their minds to what they're reading, when they're reading, so that they'll more deeply internalize what they are reading. And we'll be offering some tools for you to bring into the classroom to help make this happen. To read for understanding, obviously students must learn to actively engage in a dialogue with the author. We could put it this way. We could say that we want our students to think of the author of a written piece when they are reading, rather than thinking of it as it were, a dead book that is just there, that they pick up and they run their eyes across the pages in. We don't want that. What we want is for students to recognize that if they're going to read anything deeply, internalize it deeply, they're going to have to see what they're reading as part and parcel of the author, him or herself. So this is a product of someone's reasoning that we're engaging with. And this will require a dialogue. And again, students need tools for this dialogue. They must see the connection between close reading and disciplined thinking. It's essential for students to recognize that if they are not skilled at deep reading, and if they don't routinely engage in reading and applying their minds in a disciplined way to important readings, then they are not going to be educated persons. They could be well trained in their fields, they could be highly skilled in their fields, but it won't mean that they're an educated person in the more rounded sense of the term that we're reaching for as educators. Here is a powerful quote from Horace Mann from 1838, which captures part of the problem that we face in the classroom in terms of student reading and their inability to read well. He says, "I've devoted especial pains to learn with some degree of numerical accuracy how far the reading in our schools is an exercise of the mind in thinking and feeling, and how far it is a barren action of the organs of speech upon the atmosphere. My information is derived principally from the written statements of the school committees of the respective towns, gentlemen who are certainly exempt from all temptation to disparage the schools they superintend. The result is that more than 11/10 of all the children in the reading classes do not understand the meanings of the words they read, and that the ideas and feelings intended by the author to be conveyed to and excited in the reader's mind still rest in the author's intention, never having yet reached the place of their destination." Now, we could actually critically read this. We'll be focusing on a critical reading set of activities presently, but let's just look a little more closely at what he is saying. First of all, he's saying that he's studied the schools and he's looked at what students are learning, and he uses beautiful analogies. If you're studying this as a piece of writing, well, it's a magnificent piece of writing. He says that I have devoted special pains to learn with some degree of numerical accuracy how far the reading in our schools is an exercise of the mind in thinking and feeling, and how far it is a barren action of the organs of speech upon the atmosphere. That is a beautiful analogy. So, in other words, the person is speaking and their organs are working and their words are going out into the atmosphere, but is anybody actually thinking about what that person is saying and having related feelings that would come with that thinking? And Obviously, he paints a dismal picture of the status of courses in reading at that time, and I dare say things have improved very little if our goal is deep thinking through, as it were, deep written works. And so mainly students are reading to get by, they're reading to get through it, they just want to know what's going to be on the test, they don't have any interest in really learning to read deeply, they don't see the value in that, they don't see why they should bother with that, and they don't see people around them doing that to any considerable degree. So if anything, I would say that this problem has gotten worse in the last 100, almost 200 years than it was then. And the last line is very powerful, and that the ideas and feelings intended by the author to be conveyed to and excited in the reader's mind still rest in the author's intention, never having yet reached the place of their destination. So the author had great intention, but the fact is that it's not being conveyed to the average student, because the average student does not have access to deep ideas. The average student does not have access to learn how to think critically through content. So to read for understanding, students must learn to read deeply, to read for insights, to read to understand the logic of the text. Here we're focusing on the elements of reasoning embedded in the text, the author's purpose, the key questions the author is asking, the information the author is using, and so forth. And again, we'll come back to that. They need to learn to read to identify complexities in written works and to understand interrelationships. Now, the purpose of this session is for us to learn to better understand close reading in order to better foster it in our students. And I begin with the assumption that if you are here with me right now, you're already doing a lot of positive things in this direction. So what I'm arguing for is that we need to move further in this direction so that every student has a chance to learn the importance of close reading and how one actually engages in close reading.